Every single price you have ever seen was designed by someone who understood your brain better than you do, not to inform you, not to reflect true value, but to steer you toward a specific choice before your conscious mind even gets involved. That sounds like a bold claim, so let me prove it with something you have almost certainly done yourself. You walk into a coffee shop, there are three cup sizes. Small is $2, medium is $4, large is $4.50. Without much thought, almost everyone picks the large. Why? Because compared to the medium, the large feels like a bargain. You get a little more coffee for just 50 cents extra. But here is the thing nobody stops to ask. Why does the medium exist at all? It is not there for people who want a medium coffee. It is there to make the large look like an obvious deal. The medium is what behavioral economists call a decoy. And that single pricing trick is used in movie theaters, subscription software, wine lists, gym memberships, and electronic stores every single day. The people building these menus and pricing pages are not guessing. They are drawing on decades of research into how human beings perceive value, feel loss, and make decisions under uncertainty. And once you see the architecture behind a price, you cannot unsee it. This video is going to walk you through 5 of the most powerful and most invisible forces shaping every financial decision you make. Understanding them will not make you a robot immune to influence, but it will give you a pause, a moment of clarity that can save you real money over the course of your life. Let us start with the trick that is everywhere. The decoy effect was first documented seriously by researchers in the 1980s, and it has held up in experiment after experiment ever since. The core idea is simple. When you have two options, people choose based on their own preferences. But when you introduce a third option that is clearly inferior to one of the two, it does not just get ignored. It actively boosts the appeal of the option it is close to. That third option is the decoy. A famous study asked people to choose between a weekend trip to Paris or a weekend trip to Rome, both all-inclusive. The choice was nearly split. Then researchers added a third option, Rome, but without the free breakfast. Suddenly, Rome with breakfast became overwhelmingly popular. Nothing about Paris or the original Rome offer changed. The only thing that changed was the addition of a clearly worse version of Rome, which made the good version of Rome look like an obvious winner. Marketers took this research and built entire pricing strategies around it. Think about every software subscription you have ever seen. There is usually a basic tier, a professional tier, and an enterprise tier. The professional tier is almost always priced to make the enterprise tier look reasonable, or sometimes to make the basic tier look pointlessly cheap. The goal is to funnel you toward whichever product has the highest profit margin. Apple, Amazon, and Netflix have all been studied for this pattern in their pricing structures. You are not choosing freely, you are choosing within a frame that was built for you. The antidote is simple but requires effort. Before deciding, ask yourself what you actually need, not what looks like the best deal relative to the options in front of you. Those options were curated on purpose. Now, here is where money psychology gets genuinely strange. Human beings feel the pain of losing something roughly twice as intensely as they feel the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. This was one of the landmark findings of Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, two psychologists whose work on decision-making earned Kahneman a Nobel Prize in Economics in 2002. The principle is called loss aversion, and retailers exploit it constantly. When a store marks something as 40% off, they are not just telling you the new price. They are framing the original price as something you stand to lose if you do not act. The crossed out number at the top is not informational. It is emotional. It is there to make inaction feel like a loss. You are never going to pay that original price. Most of the time, you are not even thinking about that product before you saw the sale. But the moment a high anchor price appears next to a lower sale price, your brain calculates the gap as money you are about to save, and saving money feels urgent. Here is the part that costs people real money over time. Studies show that consumers regularly buy things they did not need or plan to buy simply because a sale made inaction feel like losing. The item gets used once or sits in a closet. The money is gone. The brain, however, remembers it as a win, a smart purchase, a saving. Retailers know this cycle deeply. Flash sales, countdown timers, and limited stock warnings are all engineered to trigger the same loss aversion response, accelerating your decision before your rational mind can slow things down. Knowing the mechanism does not erase the feeling, but it does give you a moment to ask, would I buy this at full price? If the answer is no, a sale has not created value, it has created a purchase. There is a concept in behavioral economics called the pain of paying. When you hand over physical cash for something, your brain actually registers mild discomfort. Researchers using brain imaging have found that spending cash activates the insula, a region associated with negative emotions. This is why cash-based budgeting methods work so well for so many people. The physical act of handing over bills makes the cost feel real. Credit cards, contactless payments, and digital wallets were not designed primarily for convenience. They were designed to reduce friction and, in doing so, reduce the pain of paying. When you tap your phone to buy something, the cognitive and emotional cost of that transaction is dramatically lower than paying cash. Studies have consistently shown that people spend more when using credit cards than cash for the same purchases, and the gap is not small. One study from MIT found that people were willing to pay more than twice as much for the same item when paying by credit card versus cash. Buy now, pay later services take this even further. They do not just eliminate the pain of paying at the moment of purchase, they push it weeks into the future, when it arrives as a dull obligation rather than an immediate sting. The whole architecture of modern payment technology is built around reducing the moment of hesitation that protects your wallet. The practical takeaway is not that you need to carry cash everywhere. It is that you should build your own friction into digital spending. That might mean a waiting period rule before purchases above a certain amount, or keeping your credit card number out of autofill on shopping sites. Small obstacles have a meaningful impact on impulse spending because impulse spending runs on the absence of friction. Here is the thing about everything we have covered. The decoy that steers you toward a more expensive option, the crossed out price that turns inaction into a loss, the frictionless payment that disconnects spending from feeling, none of these tricks require your cooperation to work. They operate below the level of deliberate thought. That is not a flaw in your character. That is a feature of how human cognition works, and it is the same for virtually every person, regardless of intelligence or financial knowledge. But here is what changes when you understand the mechanics. You create a gap between the trigger and the response. Behavioral economists call this gap a pause, and it is one of the most financially valuable things you can cultivate. Some practical ways to build that pause include a 24-hour rule for any unplanned purchase above a threshold you set, removing stored payment information from online retailers so each transaction requires deliberate action, and learning to notice when a pricing page offers exactly 3 options, because that structure almost always means the middle or top option has been engineered to seem obviously correct. Understanding that a sale price is always relative, never absolute, is worth returning to. Ask the question, what is this actually worth to me, independent of what it used to cost or what the other options are? That single question cuts through most of the psychological architecture we have discussed. Money is not just math. It is emotion, perception, and habit built up over a lifetime of navigating systems designed to part you from it. The more you understand those systems, the more of your own money you get to keep. If this video gave you something useful, please like it and subscribe. There is a lot more on this channel about how money really works, and every video is built to give you an edge.